So I would like to introduce Dr. Muhra Rashed Al-Muhairi from Abu Dhabi government, advisor for Abu Dhabi government. Dr. Muhra, are you ready to start your presentation?
Yes, thank you. I'm here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And the floor is yours. As I said, all the CV, the biography, all these people are on our website, but I do big few things. I mean, what I always, because we do, we have to say this every time. We have been working very closely with the United Nations, and the United Nations is taking women empowerment very seriously. And whenever we come across a women leader in her localities or internationally, like you, Dr. Muhra, we will feel very proud, because this is really what we are really keen. And I'm very pleased. We had 2 women in the morning, and now we have 2 women in these sessions. The more we have women dominating in our sessions, we'll be very happy. She got a PhD, Doctor of Business Administration from UAE University. She has studied, I think when I looked into your bio, you have, mashallah, many qualifications. She's a senior staff and advisor to the government of UAE. So the floor is yours, Dr. Muhra.
I am sharing the slide. Is everyone, can you see?
We can see the slides, we can see you, and we can listen or hear you. Go ahead.
Perfect. So thank you for having me today, and I hope I'm so excited to be part of this intellectual conference that will bring the truth about what is happening during and after the COVID-19 for the whole world, hopefully, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And so the paper is about the coronavirus 2020, the role of individuals in the UAE in the implementation of SDG Agenda 2030 after the pandemic. I was thinking about this research for a long time, since the start of this pandemic, and then I'm hoping how the society and individual will be working. So just a few information about myself. I do have a doctorate of business administration. I did, as you said, I worked in mostly education industry and learning and development industry for both federal and local government of Abu Dhabi. And I am very enthusiastic mostly about the research on the social as well as self-leadership, and how can individuals contribute onto the society in general, and how what is their roles. I do have a blog that encourage people and inspire them to be the best version of themselves. So this is a little bit about me that I thought I would introduce it before introducing the paper itself. As you might know, the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the basis of the Agenda 2030, is a blueprint for that has been established to realize a sustainable and better future for all. And SDG are aimed at addressing the global challenges being forced in people, different communities. Those goals include, and we will go through it later, the poverty, zero hunger, good health, and others. And so if we think about COVID-19 is more than a health crisis, honestly. A majority because of it's focusing also the effect on the economy itself, and the impact of economy for everyone. And it is going to make decisions for leaders that need to be guided, and on all the countries that will be affected in different ways. So let's say as of today, how is the UAE in terms of the numbers of coronavirus? And the total cases is around 57,000, and the recovered is 49. And the current case, new case as of today is 271, and the recovered is 352. Thank God for a while, the number of new cases in UAE is less than the number of the recovered. So I think the UAE is going on the right curve with all the precautions that the leaders have been given. The number of tests and the like all the rules and regulation that's been given for society and people who are living in UAE, whether they are resident or they are local. If you might know, UAE locals are only 19, or I think it's 15% of the population. So most of the population are non-locals. However, it's been all the rules and regulations that's been given about COVID-19. It was affecting everyone in the pandemic itself. So let's dig deep a little bit in the objectives of this research. This research can bring other research upward, of course. The objectives is this research was carried out to identify the particular steps that different stakeholders across the UAE can adopt to ensure the SDG are realized by 2030. So I had some individuals that I interviewed, and those people are on a high executive positions, and they are local and non-local, and they are both thinking about how would the United Arab Emirates, as is this case with the rest of the world, is dealing with COVID-19 crisis. And the lives being lost, of the livelihoods being made uncertain for no doubt immeasurable, and how the UAE together with other governments and globally participate on this dilemma. So even there is a lot of connection with UAE and the World Health Organization and recent activities about how the UAE can also help other countries, neighboring countries that in need. And we will cover that later on in the presentation. So the research design was basically an interview covering all the 17 goals. As I mentioned, it's a one-to-one interviews that took place with some executives working on government and private in the UAE. And the questions is how would this goal, identifying the goal of the SDG, all of them, the 17, will be affected by the pandemic from their point of view, from their industry point of view, and from the UAE perspectives and the world perspectives. So some of the interviews brought other curiosity of the questions that we can add also and investigate later on. So the best way to do this research was to do the interview. I managed to do 10 of them, as I mentioned before. So for the most of the finding I am presenting today is regarding each code and highlighting the most important finding. And when I talk about with the individuals, they are thinking about the perspective of the goals. For example, let's take the first one, and probability in all its forms everywhere, and how that will be affected on the after the coronavirus. So, and regarding the first goal, which is need for all forms and poverty to be ended everywhere, 70% of the participants agreed that the importance of UAE leaders to work toward reduction of poverty and certain increase, because it's a matter of which COVID-19 pandemic has impacted different sectors. So internally in UAE, there was a lot of resource and extra resource was given. However, it's also helping other countries, because whatever happening with the neighboring and the all countries around would also affect whatever happening inside a country itself. For example, in this case, it's UAE. Then we have the end hunger, which is the second goal. So, in regarding the second SDG goal, in that is the management of hunger and making sure that all citizens are food secure. 80% of the participants agreed that UAE could provide food to its citizens because it is a recent past. In the recent past, it had demonstrated interest to engaging on a suitable architectural practice. So even with the architecture is very hard in UAE, however, it's been having a new technology to help plantation of some of the farming in the UAE. So UAE is trying to have a focus on that. However, some segment of the participants raised concern about the weather and the climate of the UAE that can be difficult, which can be against some of the plantations and agriculture process. For that, for example, now we are in the summer, it's around 45 degrees. It is extremely hot for the plants to receive. However, there is some local plants that is coming only in the summer, like dates and mangoes and other points. So that's I think what the technology with the Minister of Agriculture is coming up. There is a lot of potential in this term. In regarding the third, which is can be the most important and directly related to the COVID-19, which is ensure a healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. UAE is in a position to effectively roll out health promotion activities aimed at making sure that it is citizens of all ages stay healthy. And the Ministry of Health is working very hard on this, not even to think about the health itself, but preventing anything. And they are having with the preparation of COVID-19, building extra hospitals, managing the current cases, and putting new regulations onto locals and citizens. And they are also, the UAE, as you might see in the picture, it shows that UAE also sponsoring needy country on health crisis. For example, this package was going to Kazakhstan on July 2020, that is this month. And recently I heard that it's been sending other packages to Sudan recently. I think I read this in the newspaper 2 days ago. So it's UAE try to also help other countries to win this battle against the COVID-19. On the fourth, which is goals, which is ensure inclusive and equality of education and provide lifelong learning opportunity for all. The participants stress that the UAE should continue investing in the development of educational facility even after the pandemic, because education, honestly, it seems for some of the participants is a key source of even covering whatever the pandemic can bring to us. And it can be a long term, but however, it can be the right path for the UAE. That's because of the role of the quality learning has on youth who are relied upon to ensure that the future will be guaranteed. If you might know, most of the population of UAE are from the youth group. So focusing on the youth as well in terms of education and other goals also will be beneficial if there is any focus, and that is the education. The UAE has been partnering with other top universities, for example, to bring them and on board for the learning and development for its local and citizen as well, both the same. And regarding the fifth goals, achieving gender equality and empower all women and girls. Gender equality, where the participant stressed that there is a need for the UAE to continue empowering females as has been done on the recent past. If you know, the UAE has the highest number of minister women in their board. So it is really trying to participate and having even we have the youngest minister, Her Excellency Shama, is a woman who is leading a whole minister with the age than less than 25 years old. The participant further warned that the steps that have been made so far should not be eroded because of the pandemic. So we should not step back onto how we see the importance of the gender because we are achieving other or winning on other countries and developing countries, not in this goals as well. So, and regarding the six goals, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. And so 100% of the participants appreciated the step that have been adopted by the UAE so far to ensure the water is available for its citizens. And that is not an easy for a country that's in the desert. So there've been a lot of process made and regulation made to ensure that part is, and I would believe, and even the participants believe that this is 100% important in all terms. So regarding making sure that all citizens have access to sustainable forms of energy, the participant insisted that this should not be a problem for the UAE, but that members of the public need to be educated on some of the ways through which they can use the available forms of energy more effectively. So probably more education on the sustainable of energy source can be beneficial at this stage after the pandemic. That is very true. And regarding the eight goals, the observation was similar when it comes to the eight sustainable goals development, where the participants acknowledge that indeed the UAE is often warm and welcoming to all, and that it should continue providing resources for individuals to be creative and innovative, thereby enhancing their possibility of success. So there is a lot of growth, there is an opportunity still open for citizen and local to open their own small business or big business. At the same time, there is a support for learning and development for them. There was many seats given for local and non-local to learn more so they can affect potentially for the growth of the economy in general, which is I would say the second most affected sector is economy after the health in regarding the pandemic itself. If we go to the goal number 9, all participants similarly pointed out that UAE has made considerable progress in regarding to developing its infrastructure over the previous decade, and that is should continue doing even as it's planned to recover from the pandemic. This is because infrastructure provides the platform for innovation to take place, which will be essential in boosting the nation economy. The infrastructure, or in all terms, it's not only the building itself, but even the thought of the infrastructure. Look at the Hope, which is the rocket that went to Mars yesterday or the day before. So that is the thoughts and the development that we want all nation to think about. That is nothing impossible, and it's also possible as well. And regarding to goals number 10, the argument was similar in regarding to reduction of inequity across other nations, where the participant appreciated the effort that has been applied by the UAE to support other countries across the world. However, they stressed that considerable effort still need to be applied to make sure that Asia and other Middle East nations view each other with respect instead of initiating conflict with each other. I still remember this conversation with one of the participants in the interview, and the importance of the collaboration between different countries in order to create a better result after the pandemic is the only solution, because you can't just be at yourself, you have to be together. And that was the words that I got from the participant who was talking the other day about it. And regarding the 11th and 12th goals, which is the participant further stressed that UAE can still apply approaches to make sure that the cities and settlements are safe and resilient for all, while at the same time encouraging its citizens to consume healthy product and service. This picture I took from the picture that was announcing that Abu Dhabi, one of the most safest cities in the world, and we don't want only Abu Dhabi to be so, we want all cities to be also in this place. And when we encourage a sustainable consumptions for all citizens, it will have a better views for all cities and the human settlements. And regarding the 13th and 14th goals, taking urgent action to combat climate change and its impact, and also conservation and sustainability use of ocean, seas, and marine resources. Although it is very challenging at the UAE, all the participants similarly pointing out that the UAE has made considerable progress in regarding the climate change and sustainable project to seas and marine resources. We have in the UAE the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment, which overlook all the projects that concern the environment, climate change, any marine and any other environmental areas. At the same time, we have Abu Dhabi environment agencies that also look down onto those elements. According to the participant, none of this will be changed because we are living on the climate that is changing regularly, and it is very important to keep up this process and regulation even outside after the pandemic. And regarding the last goals, 3 goals, the participant, it's about protect and restore, promote sustainable use of transnational ecosystems, sustainability, and the forest as well, promote peaceful and inclusive settles and sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, build effective accommodation, strengthen the means of implementation, and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. The participants encourage the need for the country to continue taking action aimed to verifying all the elements in regarding those goals, specifically on the sustainability and the peaceful There is a lot of peaceful argument that's been the UAE been going through, and it's all aimed to having a better peaceful argument with other nearby countries and peace for the whole world as well. So if we think about it at the end,
Dr. Muhra, the time is getting very close. If you can conclude, I will be grateful.
Yes, this is my last.
Excellent. Go ahead.
It's about the value of what this paper can give for the next research. So, given the exist of the damage of the economy, leaders and nation can opt and focus on essential aspects of regarding the recovery. And the argument above reaffirmed that despite the challenge being faced, there is a need for leaders to still be committed to realization of the SDG. And with approximately half of the globe workforce at risk of losing their job due to frozen economy and growth, there is a risk of some goals being revised or ignored. The SDG are important because they provide a clear compass of the direction that should be taken in regarding the recovery process. The SDG will further ensure that no parts of society is left unattended to, for all essential aspects will need to be taken care of. Taking resources away from SDG is likely to be destroyed and will reverse the progress that has been regarded over recent years. Given the role it plays in geopolitics, UAE stakeholders need to work with external agencies such as UNDP with the aim of making sure that the set objectives are realized. Those are the main values that we can take away from here and bring it further for the SDG community as well as the world community and regarding the after the pandemic. By this, I finished and spent 25 minutes, sorry about that. I finished, so I'm gonna stop sharing here.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much, Dr. Muhra. Thank you very much.
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.